The best part of Ranking of Kings continues to be how characters are always so much more than meets the eye, and the way I feel like it makes the viewers not question his actions because the actions in question just make a lot of sense for what we've come to expect from the characters. But the fact that we usually ignore or don't really think of the possibility of other actions that would make sense for those characters makes episodes like these and characters like Appease just continue to be so much more than meets the eye. And I've loved every character that we've seen, whether it's a psychotic Oaken who just, you don't know what's wrong with that prince and how he can go from getting daggers in the eyes and down his throat to healing himself, to Appease who very much feels like a mixture of fear/loyalty to Miranjo, but at the same time, I mean, I know for myself anyway, and I'm sure I'm not alone feeling this, he has no reason to hate Queen Hilling, right? And it's something that it's felt like he's been scared of certain actions. But the idea of him saving her life by throwing a spear and taking out 3 of those hellhounds, giving her a moment to actually regroup, it's something that didn't cross my mind. In that moment, I actually thought Prince Boji, the others, maybe some other knights, they were going to be the ones who would do an action like that because we knew they were on the way, and who knows how many were actually ahead of them. To me, Appease saving her was the least likely on my mind, but when I saw that he did it, it completely made sense for his character. And that's what makes the character writing of Ranking of Kings so much better than most stories out there, because it's not like things are happening where the author is pulling things from thin air. Okay, Appease is now going to save Hilling despite having all this loyalty for the magic mirror. No, instead, it's just everything is aligning because these characters feel like humans. There's loyalties that will overlap with other people, meaning that ultimately you're going to do things that will piss off the other side, and no matter what, you're probably not going to make everyone happy. But given your long history with someone like Queen Hilling, you don't want to see her die, and for what cause? Why does she need to be taken out for your plan to come to fruition, right? But it just adds so much layer and complexity to an already very complex cast. This episode was pretty much non-stop action from, Dorsey just completely annihilating, learning from his previous mistakes in the last fight, has blades on his back, he has blades on his hands, he's kicking ass, taking names, but eventually shit just catches up to them, and from seeing Queen Hilling actually overload on the magic healing, first getting slit across the wrist, had she not healed herself there, she would have bled out and died, and you saw how much of a toll it took just healing herself. Then seeing one of her most loyal guards I thought she was completely dead and down for the count right then and there. When you saw Oaken just slash her neck, I was like, there's no way. I'm like, oh my god, that probably decapitated her head. But luckily she got to her in time. And I thought one of the best details about Hilling in this episode was the, underneath her armor, she had all these bags of, magical potions that she could drink to, replenish her mana and energy, which I thought was such a nice little detail that didn't need to be there, but it adds so much, reasoning why she's able to do so much strenuous activity. Because pretty much since the beginning, when we saw that she has healing magic, we saw it takes a lot of energy out of her, so probably healing one person, especially if that person's yourself, probably is going to knock you out, and if she does it a second time, how the hell is she supposed to walk to her horse or basically save her life when everyone else is fighting for theirs? And those little details about her equipment pouches just add to so much things where you're not going to have people say, well, this doesn't make sense given previous encounters with her magic. No, we see how she's replenishing her juices, so to speak. And just seeing everything take place here, from getting even more taste of what the magic mirror's angle is. She very much clearly wants the king to live forever. That pretty much seems like her determination of getting another wife. We get the confirmation in this episode that apparently giants can only have one baby. So I'm wondering if that actually ties into potentially why Boji lost his mother, because if, taking a baby into the world, does that drain more of your life force? If you try to do it again, does that kill you? Maybe that's actually the direction they're going to go. Maybe it's okay, they can have one baby, but if you attempt to have another one, that actually would kill the body or something. I'm not sure exactly, but the interesting thing that Queen Hilling was brought in because of the magic mirror and the fact that he needed to have a second child, it's so much there's so many questions you have about that relationship. But I feel more and more like the magic mirror and that little girl that Daida talked to are two very separate personalities, and I'm curious if that little girl trapped with Daida was to regain control, how much different of a situation we'd be having on our hands. Either way, it was just all-out bloodshed, beautifully animated. I mean, I'm not getting sick of these hellhounds in the slightest. They could continue to bring them up throughout the remaining 10 episodes, and just seeing these giant beasts get either punched in the gut and go flying to, it's brutal. I mean, Dorshi lost a leg in this episode, or at the very least, he lost a foot. It actually didn't look like he lost his entire leg, more so like maybe from the ankle downwards, but sometimes anime perspective can be a little misleading and it's actually his entire leg. Either way, that shit ain't good. I mean, we already lost, a hand with one of our characters. Now we lost a foot. But if it is just the foot, I could see them making a prosthetic that would allow him to continue doing what he needs to and still be a badass on the battlefield. But if he lost his entire leg, I don't see how a prosthetic could keep up with his movements. But I mean, either way, this man, he went from having like Thor's hammer, if it was on steroids, impale him into the ground, to throwing that ogre into a wall and just refusing to let his queen down. I just think it's so interesting that when it did came to a piece, the fact that the mirror wasn't pissed off per se, but more so understood the betrayal. Almost like, I'll give you this one, but I'm only gonna give you this one. Because of course, you would have no reason to hate them. You were with them for so long. So I can understand the overlapping, morals of who you should follow, but make sure you don't do it again sort of a thing. And the fact that when he was taking the mirror to the underground, because that's where they wanted to go, and, you have a couple trying to jump, he was kicking ass and taking names. And if it wasn't for, like, my favorite character on this antagonist side, who just seems like a scummy pirate who basically is apologizing, but as we see, clearly knocked him out in a sort of sucker punch way, given that they had the mirror at the end there. It was just so cool, like the little details when she turned herself into solid gold so they couldn't take her. But the fact that she's not gold and they are taking her now says to me that she has a couple of tricks up her sleeves. Just overall, this episode was incredible. And then when it came to Boji arriving, I mean, I was excited for a second. I was like, oh shit, Boji versus Oken. They have almost the identical fighting style, where Boji doesn't hit vital organs, he simply knocks out. Oken does the same fighting style but kills. But then we get the confirmation that these two aren't supposed to ever fight, and if they do, bad things are going to happen. So to me, I'm like, okay, I am glad the guards sent Boji away to save the queen, because if there's a warning to not let them fight, as much as in anime logic, someday they will fight, this ain't the moment when we're already witnessing some of the strongest characters lose goddamn limbs at this point. Ranking of Kings never fails to impress me. The character motivations make complete sense, and the motivations we don't understand yet, we know are going to make sense eventually, because given that we're 13 episodes in, and things don't just get pulled from thin air, it just gets pulled from their history, which is night and day for a lot of anime authors and mangakas and things like that out there. But let me know your thoughts and feelings. Favorite moment in this episode? I think the unexpected losing of a limb from Dorshi was probably my favorite, but honestly, that kind of standoff when Boji was about to fight Oken was probably very close second for me. If there is any sort of like endgame battle, I think maybe, potentially, I guess I could easily be proven wrong, but if it was Boji versus Oken at like the last stretch of the first season, that would be pretty damn incredible, especially because like we got a taste of the villagers saying, oh my god, Prince Boji came here to save us. Very night and day from the laughing of him walking naked downtown after getting his clothes stolen by Kage. So I don't know, like either A, they're gonna leave that fight for either the end of the season or potentially the end of this battle, so to speak, but either way, like that fight has me intrigued, and I'm a little terrified but also excited to see what's gonna happen, especially because they set it up as a taboo fight, and it's kind of like the, you shouldn't touch the forbidden fruit, but it's hard not to crave said forbidden fruit, even though the thought of Boji dying from this man is kind of terrifying. But let me know yours down below. What do you hope to see next week? Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.